we'll get through those as we get you set for the Giants coming to town in a game that, Dave, they could be pretty shorthanded depending on how this injury report shakes out. I was looking at it last night. It feels like the linebacker position above all is in question. You got Tyrese Knight, who did not practice yesterday. Tyrell Dodson, limited participation. Jerome Baker, limited. Boye Mafe, limited. Uchenna Nwosu, limited. Also, Byron Murphy has been ruled out, along with Cam Young. Julian Love, questionable, and Mafe, as we said. So it feels like linebacker above anything is the most questionable position. Is this a team they should be able to, you look at, not to look past them, but say, even if these guys are hurt or half of them are not available, this is a team you beat on your home field?
You should, absolutely. This is it's just when you go and look at the Giants, look, I know that every team has their great players, and Daniel Jones can beat you at any time, and I get all that, but to me, I expect to win. There's nothing that stands out from the Giants as far as just being dominant. I mean, when you went and looked at Detroit and look at that film, you could see why that team is good and why they were going to be tough. They got a couple of really good running backs. They got a good quarterback, as it turns out, some really good receivers. And then, a player like Penei Sewell just stands out. Now, there's a couple of those guys like Brian Burns and Thibodeau that stand out. But, like, for the most part, and they're not playing that well. So, yeah, I think it is a team that you should take care of. But I am concerned about the linebacker situation because, you remember Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith were the two guys that benefited most, I thought, from Mike Macdonald, maybe the safety. But Mike Macdonald's defense was for inside linebackers. And that's no mistake because for whatever reason, that's his position of choice. Like, if he had to just coach one position, it would be the inside backers. And, and there was questions with Tyrell Dodson when he was first signed because he hadn't played a lot. And, he'd only started in, I think, 13 games, whereas you got Jerome Baker, who had, close to 100 starts. And, it was like, okay, let's see. Well, we've seen from Dodson, he's a really good player. But if he's not, going to be healthy, and now you got Tyrese Knight in there who's kind of learning on the fly. We got the kid Drake Thomas who's playing a little bit, and this is the first time that he's really got significant playing time. Now, all of a sudden, that very important position to Mike Macdonald, anyway, is kind of compromised just because you don't have your two best players, or possibly they were limited participation for both of those guys. I feel like Dodson's going to play, but Baker has been the one I think that's been the bigger mystery.
Yeah, and they, looking at this team again, it's 4 games. I don't know if this is a fully formed Giants team yet to get an assessment of what they do well, what they don't do well. You can say to this point, defensively, they're stingy. They've allowed the fewest points in the NFC East of any of the teams there. They've also scored the fewest by about 26 fewer. So they put up 60 total points in 4 games. So looking at it going, all right, the problems with the Seahawks in health-wise are on defense. They're going up against an offense that to this point, they put up 8 points in their first, or 6 points in their first game. Then they put up 18, both losses, and then they win. They beat Cleveland 21-15. Then they lose 20-15. They put up 15 against Dallas. So It just feels like, not looking past them, certainly the players aren't. It doesn't matter what we do. But I just feel like, all right, if this is, because it leads to the other question. If they're without these guys, maybe for precautionary reasons, because they have to turn around and play Thursday night football against the 49ers. It's a big game. That's a division game. It's got more meaning to it. You can extend that lead in the division. So going into that one healthy has much more value to it than this one. Not saying you're kicking this one to the side, and if you lose, no big deal. Certainly you want to win. But if there's a guy, if it's Mafe, and you're going, yeah, he's 80, give him a few more days, he'd be 100 or close to 100. Maybe I don't play him in this game. Maybe I want him as close to 100 for the 49ers. And they should still be able to handle this Giants offense.
Yeah, because if you don't have Boye Mafe in there, you still, and we had this last week, you still got Dre Jones on one side, and then you've got Derek Hall, and Derek Hall has just been fantastic. I mean, he's got four sacks already, and fairly limited time. So yeah, if I'm Mike McDonald and I'm thinking, hey, I can have Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson or Boye Mafe in this case that we're talking about. Certainly Uchenna, you're going to wait until Thursday because we have some players that can get us there. So, yeah, I think that I know that every single game is, crucial, and that you go into every week like, we've got to beat this team right now. We'll worry about everybody else later. But I do think you need to have some long-term planning here. And I'm curious to see how that shakes out. That's going to be very interesting on game day to see which guys are up, which guys are down. And then, the other thing is this is all new with Mike McDonald. We don't know how he's going to handle situations like this. Is he a guy that's going to be like, nope, it's the next game up, and then I'll worry the next week, or is he going to, like I said, have the long-term plan? So we'll figure that out as far as Mike McDonald is going. But like I said, it's all, it's all new territory for us because we don't really know exactly how he runs a team.
I also feel like, they talked about communication issues in that Lions game. I would think those would be rectified going into this game. Right? Even if it's the backups again. Let's just say everybody that played in that last game is playing in this game, just for the hypothetical here. So you got 5 starters out. You got 5 guys taking their place. Shouldn't that communication issue, now I know literal communication could be tough because it gets really loud when you're on defense here at Lumen, certainly, but shouldn't that communication issue that cropped up in the Lions game be close to fixed at least?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for Mike McDonald, it's almost like he embraces mistakes because it's called a coaching moment. Like I thought in Detroit, there was lots of coachable moments that, and I think there's somewhat of a relief to him that, like, okay, I'm glad that happened now and that we can address that because, the game of football, incredibly complicated. There's all kinds of different things going on, and you don't always get to every single situation. Mike McDonald tried to. I know during camp, he had an entire practice where it was like all these odd plays, like throwing the ball out of bounds with, if you're trying to burn the clock, or, how you're going to handle every last little situation. I always tell the story that going into every high school football game that I coached, I was like, something would come up and I would go, oh, damn, we should have practiced that.
Yeah.
I wish we had done that. And so he's getting a lot of those moments, and and in this case, I feel like, yeah, there were some mistakes made last week, especially as far as the gaps go. And we'll hear from Miles Adams a little bit. He's going to kind of clarify that for us, I think. But other than that, yeah, there's lots of things that he's just kind of going through. But I agree with you that the stuff that, even though they're backup players, it doesn't mean that they're not as smart as the guys that are starting. And so if it's a lot of like mental errors, then those things will definitely get fixed, especially with a guy like McDonald who pays so much attention to all the small details.
360 asking you a question for Dave, because I don't know football. But what are you seeing in Dre Jones this year? Because you just brought up his name, and he's flashed a couple of times to me. I haven't zeroed in on him from snap one till the end of the game each week, but it just feels like he's been more present than times last year. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think he is an incredibly powerful player. He's a lot like Uchenna, but I don't think he's quite as athletic as some of the guys that are on the outside. Because, and I mentioned that basically, he's a starter on that edge position there. But, I don't think he has as much flexibility to like drop back into coverage and things like that. But man, you see him at the point of attack. And I remember last time we talked to him, I mentioned the one hip toss that he had on a 330-pound Cincinnati Bengal lineman last year, and I was just raving about that play. And he goes, "Yeah, well, I had like 6 or 7 of those."
Yeah.
So, and I like the cockiness there. But, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that can just overpower people at the point of attack. You can't block him with the tight end. So, I think he's been good. He hasn't been as flashy as Mafe and Derek Hall, but yeah, he's been solid.
425 said all the backups got a wake-up call against Detroit. I think the defense shines this week. I think they certainly could. I guess I guess I feel like it might be qualified because the Giants offense looks really bad, and they're going without Malik Neighbors, who was their leading receiver. So it feels like if the defense goes out there, and listen, I'm going to celebrate it no matter who they do that against. If they go out there and shut them down, I will celebrate it. But I could understand if somebody qualifies and goes, well, yeah, but it was the Giants. They put up 60 points in 4 games. They're the worst offense in that division, one of the worst in football currently. How do you feel about that? Do you walk away with a different level of certainty when they do that against a Giants team versus maybe a 49er team on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, people are going to discount the win. They're going to say they're at home. This is another poor quarterback, and that you, when you faced a good quarterback in Jared Goff, you lost. And I think that they're going to, until they beat somebody that is of note or makes people, happy, then people are going to continue to say that. I still think that whether you have a good quarter, I thought Jacoby Brissett played a really good game. He may be a backup, and he may be a career backup guy, but he had a really good game. And I think some of that was that the Seahawks weren't disciplined in their, in some of their pass coverage, but also a lot of it was the fact that he played well. So, yeah, I don't buy all of that, but I do think that that's going to be the narrative if they beat the Giants, especially if, God forbid, they only beat them by like a field goal or something like that.
I don't care. 1 point, 20 points. I mean, yeah, you feel good about a domination, but just it's a bottom line business. Win the game, walk out of there 4-1. You got a short turnaround. You got the 49ers coming to town on Thursday. So for me, style points mean nothing in this one. I know it will for some, but a win is a win.